Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, welcome. Man, that was a loud and clear beep. I loved it. Hey, how you doing? Did I say that? It's January 28th, and I'm operating on fumes. I have to tell you, I don't think I slept more than a few hours last night, and it is so weird when you can't sleep what your head does. First of all, it won't turn off, and it's just amazing what was happening in my head when I couldn't sleep. For some reason, I was thinking about pieces I'd done for television. Let me see, it'd be like over 40 years ago. For some reason, that's where my head went. And I was remembering pieces that I did for the Steeler games. And there was one about some woman, a crazed Steeler fan, who was at practices every day, knew every player. The players knew her because she was just constantly there. She was this sort of tough, total Pittsburgher. And we went to her house, and her house was like this shrine to the Steelers. Why I was thinking of it, and I remember her husband was sitting in like a reclining chair, and he didn't look that into it himself. And I was thinking about her husband and how spouses so often have to live with obsessions of their spouse, right? And how that must be very difficult. I remember at the time feeling sorry for him because she was like a handful. And then, amazingly, I remembered her name. Now, I am someone who cannot remember anyone's name. I can't even remember names of people who are friends sometimes, just blank. And then remembering a name of somebody I've met once or twice, or even remembering if I have face blindness, I have name blindness. I have since figured out what this is about, by the way, with the help of a psychiatrist. I am so anxious when I meet anybody. I know it seems strange that I am as anxious a person as I really am, because how would an anxious person be doing what I do professionally? But I don't know. I am that anxious. And so when I meet somebody, I'm just trying to get through it. And I never does the name register, never does the face register. And I sometimes have to meet somebody 3, 4, 5 times before I finally calm down enough to, I am that nuts, okay? But last night or this morning, like at 2:30, 3 a.m., there I am lying in my bed, and I think, Murd Milowicki. What a name. I think I must have it right. Where would you make a name like that up? Murd Milowicki. Oh my God. If any of you know her, tell her Lynn Cullen remembers her. I don't know that she'd be around. Murd Milowicki. And then, so astonished was I that I remembered a name of somebody I really didn't even know from God knows how long ago. And then it occurred to me that this is what you hear about when people get old. that their short-term memory is shot, but they can remember like with incredible detail things that happened 60 years ago. Yeah, so here it's starting. Friggin' Merd Milowicki. And I couldn't get that name out of my head. So she kept me up for the next hour or so. Granted, I was slightly bemused. And then another name that ends in an I. Again, who knows what one's exhausted brain is doing. And another woman whose name ends in an I and is connected to my very early television career, this so early, it was before I got a full-time job in television. It was a summer job at a Green Bay station. And for some reason, bang, Chris Ostrowski, the name comes flying at me. She was like the assistant news director, and she scared me. I have no more thought of her or that name. Where did that name come from? So I just have to tell you, I don't know. Here I am. Merd Milowicki, Chris Ostrowski. Another name that popped in quite out of the blue, doesn't end in an I, is Ralph Berlin. And I might be wrong about these names, but I don't think I am. And he was another guy I did a story on in regard to the Steelers. And he was like a trainer, and he would tape them up. So I just remember he had a cigar hanging out of his mouth, classic kind of character. And I watched him, put miles and miles of tape on ankles and legs and elbows and of these players. I don't know. So all of this is a caveat to whatever happens next, because I feel like my brain is a little strange. I'm not sure if I have much control over it. And okay, one more. I don't know what this means. Another thing, I watched the first episode of a documentary last night, very acclaimed documentary that I hadn't gotten around to. It's called Last Dance, or The Last Dance. And it is about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls last as a coherent unit that had pretty much dominated the NBA. And it was the last season of their coach, Phil Jackson, and for all I know, the last season of Michael Jordan, too, at the Bulls. I don't know. So I just started it because for some reason, the Chicago Bulls came to Pittsburgh. I suppose I could look it up. Came to Pittsburgh and played a preseason game. It wasn't a regular game, I don't think. It was a preseason game against another NBA team that I cannot remember. I don't know who they were playing. And it was the kind of event, it was at the Civic Arena. And somehow WTAE television was involved in it, maybe a sponsor, I don't know. But I was informed that I was going to be introduced as the honorary captain or coach of the Bulls. And Joe DiNardo, the weather guy, was going to be introduced as the honorary whatever of the other team. And so WTAE obviously saw this as a way to promote, themselves and two of their folks. And I just remember feeling so uncomfortable. Well, I had reason to be, because what happened when they, with the PA announcement, said, and the honorary, whatever, captain, Joe DiNardo, And the place booed. I'm not kidding. Boos rained down. Now, maybe it wasn't huge, but believe me, that's all I heard. And then I got introduced. Lynn Cullen. Boos rained down on me. All of this cementing my initial feeling that I didn't belong there. Because obviously the basketball fans that were there didn't want to deal with Joe DiNardo and Lynn Cullen. They wanted to see this phenom, Michael Jordan. Now, what I'm thinking is I'm betting it was his rookie year because I didn't know. I really wasn't aware of him. That's how out of it I was. And as I watched the documentary last night, and I saw him in 1984, 1985, I thought, that's the guy. And the reason I have such a clear picture of him is that at one point during the game, he came off the court and sat down next to me. I had planted myself down at the very end of the bench, desperate to, not be there. And he came off the court and plopped down next to me, this young, incredible guy. And he turned to me and said, "How you doing?" And I don't even know if I made eye contact. I said, "Fine, thank you. How you doing?" But I had that interaction with Michael Jordan, and I'm sure that was before the first regular season professional game he played. I don't know, but it had to have been 84, I think, or 85, whenever he was drafted. I don't know, and I already forgot the date, the documentary. But maybe that nonsense, sports related to television stuff, was what kicked off in my befuddled head that wouldn't go to sleep, and turned up Murd Milowicki. I think that might have been what happened. Somehow, whatever little fissure in my gray matter that maybe holds memories related to sports and broadcasting got stimulated watching The Last Dance and seeing Michael Jordan as he appeared when he sat down on that bench next to me for a moment or two. And then it stimulated that little part, and up popped Murd Milowicki at 2:30 this morning. I think that maybe is what happened. I'm sorry. You don't want to hear about this? I don't blame you. Okay. Let's get into our usual fare. Hey, here's some good news I saw. So the whole time that you-know-who was you-know-where, we know that one of the things that he did, which was, I think, one of the more damaging things he did, although it does not rise to the level of the most damaging. But it was what he and Mitch McConnell did, and that was by literally stuffing our federal judiciary with these ideological, right-wingers, Federalist Society guys. And it turns out, and here's the thing that I never thought of well, maybe I did, but I didn't think in a really coherent fashion about it, that there would have been in the last 4 years a number of judges in the federal judiciary who had been intending to retire. And when they saw, with a measure of horror, what Trump and McConnell and the Republicans were up to, and when they saw the quality, and I use that term loosely, of the judges that were being put on the bench, it didn't occur to me that there would be a whole bunch of judges who would say, you know what, I got to stay. I don't want to leave this seat and have it then filled for the next 40 years with one of these unqualified right-wing idiots. So I guess I'm going to not run off to that tropical island. I guess I'm staying here. So a lot of them stayed, depriving Trump of at least their seat. And you may recall that there was pressure from, I believe it was Lindsey Graham, in the last year. And my understanding, it was pressure on old Republican judges to get off so that they could be replaced by young right-wingers. But so a lot of more liberal or just plain honorable people who saw what was going on and thought, I'm not going to let him have this seat, they stayed. And so what I didn't know is that since the election, maybe since the inauguration, once Biden was in office, a number of federal judges announced that they were retiring. Or even, they don't quite retire, they become a senior justice, which means they can hear a case now and then and probably still get paid some ridiculous sum of money for it, whatever. But they leave the seat, and the seat then becomes empty for Biden to fill, not Trump. So it's not like there's hundreds of them at this point. We're 1 week in? But there are, I think, double digits. I think we're like 10 or 11 federal judges have, in fact, decided that they will now vacate their seat on the judiciary. So I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was interesting. I also thought it was good news. Biden's rollout of and framing of the climate change initiative, the crisis, and how to see it as opportunity to create tons of good jobs. And I thought it was sort of a brilliant, non-ideological way to do it, making it seem like a really sensible thing to do in every way, win, win, win. So saying that, the federal government will now, replace their fleet with electric vehicles. Electric vehicles will have to be made, a ton of them, and to help that, and new jobs would be created. I just like that. And it's not like I have any facts or figures in front of me, but I found that to be sort of good news. And I forgot who did it, but I think it was a Washington Post columnist, came up with an entire list of things that are different now that who is gone. And she made a list of like 50 things, and I'll only share a few of them with you. they're well, let me see, actually qualified and knowledgeable human beings have been nominated for cabinet secretaries and all levels underneath. Qualified people. That is a change. Another change is not one of the president's relatives is on the payroll. Another change is that when the president speaks, he doesn't say I. You will note that. He says we, and he's talking about you and me, the country. He doesn't brag. He doesn't lie. He doesn't allow bullying in his White House. There is decorum again. People who do fact checking for media outlets are finally, I guess, able to take a breath. And I think one of the more amazing things that we all pretty much noted the first day is that we feel less anxious, calmer. And once you hear the president speak, you don't go, flying off into, pulling your hair and making, seeing if there's properties available in Botswana you could run to. You feel reassured. You feel that there are caring people, knowledgeable, capable people who are at the helm. And there's COVID briefings again. And you know who's doing them? Dr. Fauci. Imagine that. Not some bloated nitwit suggesting that, well, maybe we could just inject bleach. Just some of the things that have happened. There's actual policies being put forward. You feel that even though the vaccine rollout is a disaster, because it is, that there are people who will do everything possible to get it up and running. And they're being honest with us. I mean, all that is good. And speaking of the rollout, wow, this was something that popped onto my feed somewhere. It's from the Lowy Institute, and they did, I'm not sure who they are. They did an entire survey of how various countries in the world handled the pandemic. And what they did was, clearly, if you know statistics, they had all kinds of different categories, and countries are ranked for, how they responded to this, how they responded to that, and then their numbers were all added up and blah 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 blah. And there's a lot of verbiage here. And they note that a smaller country, a country with, let's say, fewer than 10 million people, had a leg up on a large country because they were able to be more agile, is what they said, than a larger country would, and that's, that makes perfect sense. However, you would think that, the degree of economic development or differences in political systems would also have had a huge impact, but they found that it had actually sort of less of an impact than they had thought. And they said there may be some truth in the argument put forward by the American political scientist Francis Fukuyama that the dividing line in effective crisis response is not what kind of a government there is, not what kind of a political system there is, but whether citizens trust their leaders and whether those leaders actually preside over a competent government. Well, you can see a little problem for us right there, right? Because a whole bunch of us, quite understandably, did not trust you-know-who, and we knew that his government was anything but competent and anything but effective. So a country's political system, economic development, size, lots of things are part of what created the list that I have in front of me. But these guys say it's quite clear that one of the major things is the public policy. How did a government respond in terms of policy? Whether they were large, whether they were small, whether they were authoritarian or democratic, how did they respond in terms of policy? Policy choices look like maybe the more important thing. And so they added all this stuff up, and oh my God, they came out with a list. China's not on it, by the way, and they said they couldn't put China on it because they did not trust any of the publicly available data. But in terms of rank, the country, I'll give you the top 10 countries that they say did the best job. The top two, way out ahead of everybody else, by the way, and that is number one, New Zealand, and number two, Vietnam. And then dropping a little bit down, Taiwan, Thailand, Cyprus, Rwanda, Iceland, Australia, Latvia, Sri Lanka. Those are the top 10. Now, what a hodgepodge grab bag of nations that is. And I would imagine in that group that the largest in terms of population would be Australia, which came in at number 8. Well, guys, I have to tell you, I did some real scrolling looking for the U.S. I passed Tunisia, Slovakia, the Maldives, Mozambique, Trinidad and Tobago, Uganda. I'm now down at Slovenia at 33, Zimbabwe, the Congo, Austria, Ireland, Japan, Ethiopia, for God's sakes. I'm still not at the United States. Paraguay, Italy, UK, maybe I'm getting close. Costa Rica, Belgium, France, Turkey, Netherlands, Russia, Libya, Spain, the Philippines, Kuwait, Romania, South Africa, Iraq, Bangladesh, Indonesia, India, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, where are we? Chile, Ukraine, Oman, Panama, Bolivia, and there we are. the United States of America, with a score, because they scored all these areas. We got a score of 17. Back to the top, New Zealand's score was 94. Now, granted, my guess is that this is a pretty strenuous report, but whatever. I ain't telling you anything you didn't suspect. Paul writes, we're heading back to the beginning here. I have the same issue with remembering names. I try to repeat the name after we meet. Yeah, right. How's that work? But I always forget to do it. Right. It takes several interactions before I can remember the name, but they always remember mine. I know. It was much easier years ago when I worked at Kaufman's downtown and everyone wore a frigging name tag. You know, you get really good at sort of looking at the name tag, but not looking like you're looking at the name tag. You know what I mean? It isn't easy. What's even worse is going to a class reunion and all night you're whispering to your friend, who the hell is that? Well, no, and even the name tag at the reunion doesn't do any good. You don't remember the name, you don't remember no, I did not know, I would say most of the people at my 50th reunion. Thought, who are all those old farts? Jeez. Roger writes, shouldn't we do to our ex-president what they did in the Harry Potter books and only refer to him as he who must not be named? Well, that's sort of what I guess I'm doing. I didn't ever want to say his name when he was the president. And the press should only mention him when there's something that's truly newsworthy, like being impeached. It would keep peace and drive him nuts. And secondly, when idiots like Ted Cruz say it does no good to prosecute he who shall not be named, since he's out of office, shouldn't the automatic response be, well, shouldn't ex-employees like CEOs and CFOs be prosecuted if it's discovered that they stole from the company? There's no arguing with him, Roger. Ha! I'm sorry. I mistook the next email for one of you guys, and it's not. It's, hello, friend, with due respect. I want to know if you actually got the previous email I sent you. Oh, that's pretty pathetic. How do these people think that, geez, I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay, so I mentioned the other day that I had heard specifically about, I think, Arizona, that a number of Arizona Republicans had, since January 6th, a date that will live in infamy. Since January 6th, a number of Arizona Republicans had taken the time to switch their party affiliation to mostly to simply get out of the Republican Party. And I said I knew that that was happening in Pennsylvania as well, and I wish somebody would do a compilation so that we could see just how big this is. Well, I came upon something that was a little disheartening. It turns out it's not necessarily quite what it appears to be. First of all, people leaving the Republican Party did not necessarily become Democrats. And I didn't think that. Generally not. They joined, they identified as independent, or they, joined, who knows what, the Green Party. But Democrats are also leaving the party, the Democratic Party. And here in Pennsylvania, it's pretty much a wash. Since January 6th, or since January 4, okay? So that's not a lot of time in the last few weeks. Almost 10,000 Pennsylvania Republicans took the time to stop being Republicans. The exact number is 9,891 Pennsylvanians. Of that number, a little over a third actually joined the Democratic Party. So the Democrats got 3,476 of those almost 10,000 former Republicans. On the other hand, 3,277 Democrats in this same recent window left the Democratic Party. And the vast majority of that 3,000 joined the Republicans, which only makes sense. I have said for 40 plus years that I don't know how many, it's easily a third, maybe more, of people in Pennsylvania, or certainly in southwestern Pennsylvania, who are registered as Democrats are, rabid Republicans. Whether they know it or not, they are rabid Republicans. They always vote for Republicans. The only reason they were ever Democrats is because their parents were union members, right? So it's that, blue collar union Democrat who is only in the Democratic column because of their being union friendly. So the way all those numbers stack up, for every 3 Republicans who left the party in Pennsylvania in the last few weeks, 2 Democrats became Republicans. And that tempers any, sense that, wow, the Republicans are collapsing, their people are fleeing en masse. No, they're not. And in fact, there is this realignment going on with people making sure that they are on the side that they are most comfortable with. And that includes a lot of Democrats finally realizing that they're Republicans. Okay, just wanted to share that with you. And what else? Because I so hate Wall Street and the stock exchange and that whole thing of all these sons of bitches making tons of money, doing nothing more than doing nothing more than undercutting other people. It's a vicious game. And for an economy to be tied to this kind of vicious game is just sickening to me. I so hate it. And the ones who are like there's so many swamp dwellers, all of them, richer than holy hell, the hedge fund managers and stuff. My loathing knows no bounds. Let's just put it that way. I have more respect for any person who makes a piddling wage creating something. And I'm sure the hedge fund guys will say, I create something, I create wealth. Ha! not. It's just vile. So I love, even though I don't quite, and it won't end well, I love the fact that these mostly young people have been screwing with the market and the hedge funds. One hedge fund, I guess, in particular, who's been trying to undercut short selling, I guess it's called, GameStop, which is a struggling company because, well, like Blockbuster, its day has come and gone. Used to be one on every corner, and now you never see one. GameStop. And to go to work every day and think, I'm gonna make tons of money by screwing with this already damaged company. I'm gonna screw them some more, and I'm gonna make money. So I love the fact that these, who knows what, kids, young people with nothing else to do, people with an animus toward hedge funds like I have, are gaming them, bidding up, buying GameStop stock, so that it's hugely and ridiculously inflated. But that means that the hedge funds, who were, of course, betting on them to collapse, are losing money. So I love that part, but I don't know. It's just more chaos. It is more chaos. I think I have a caller too, and I don't mean that one who just tried my cell phone. Hello?
Lynn?
Yes.
Hi. I want to go back to your political party changing and everything.
Yeah.
Before Newt Gingrich,
yeah,
I used to change my party depending on who was running in the primary.
Sure.
So I would, in the spring, this is a time of year you would do that. After the Republicans went with Newt Gingrich, I gave up on them. I haven't been a Republican since then, but I'm definitely a Democrat.
Well, good for you for getting and seeing what an awful, evil human being he was and still is.
It was so obvious, and that's what I thought. If you people can follow this guy,
yeah,
that was the end for me, and it's only gotten worse.
Yeah,
exactly. There's been thousands of reasons I wouldn't be a Republican now.
Oh yeah.
But I just wanted to add that.
Well, thank you, and I have to tell you, I commend you on your on your energy to bother to do that, to have your to change parties, because it seems to me like, hey, what a pain in the neck.
Oh no, it's easy. There's a postcard. You check a postcard. You put a stamp on it and mail it in. It's very easy.
Yeah, I'd forget which party I belong to at any given moment. Oh, gosh. Well, thank you for that.
Sure. Take care, Lynn. I listen to you every day.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Don't know if you saw that a second Capitol Hill police officer who was in the riot has committed suicide. That's amazing to me. I wonder and the count now is 140 injured police officers. And the Republicans in the Congress, these, Blue Lives Matter folks, these support your local police folks, they don't think 140 injured some very seriously injured police officers as a result of a riot fomented by their president is grounds for anything other than moving on, move on, there's nothing to see here. The Democrats are just playing politics, nothing to see here. And I do want to again say, and I suppose I'll say it a million times, I am truly stunned at the lack of courage on the part of these Republican office holders. Just stunned. The fact that the Department of Homeland Security has had to actually put out a terrorism warning for terrorists who might live next door. It's really something. And if you listen to the people who know, who see these reports, who see the data, who understand why something as rare as what came out yesterday, a bulletin just telling the public, be aware, keep your eyes open. There is a clear and present danger. And they said what it was, sort of. They didn't say from these people supporting Donald Trump who feel the election was stolen, but they say that people who were ideological, the danger, I guess, and here's where the government's in a Democratic administration, if you appear to be targeting Republicans and calling them terrorists, that gives fodder for the Republicans, Fox News, and all the others to continue with their victimhood narrative. And I have often pointed to the fact that when Barack Obama started his presidency, very early on, his Department of Homeland Security issued a report warning that military veterans returning to the United States from combat could be vulnerable to recruitment by right-wing terrorist groups. And all hell broke loose. Oh my God! Republicans were screaming, yelling, this and that, and the Department of Homeland Security withdrew the warning. The head of National Security at the time, Janet Napolitano, apologized. And as Napolitano has said, it was an early lesson in how fraught dealing with these issues can be. But of course, it turns out the report, the substance of the report, was quite prescient. The report was correct. These Republicans will have us all dead before it's over. And McConnell, clearly now, back under Trump's thumb, just as almost every other Republican is. So we're not done with, I said his name. We're not done with him because they're still terrified of his base. their base, which they loved when they thought they could control these rubes. But now they're scared shitless of them. They're scared they're going to be killed by them. Mike Pence is terrified now that they're gunning for him. And make no mistake about it, I'm sure they are. We are now at a point where office holders, Republicans who dared to vote in any way against Trump, and almost any Democrat, are like ripe for some lunatic patriot to take a shot at him. I really have fear for Republicans like this guy from Illinois, Kinzinger, I think his name is. I think. He has been saying he has never been a Trumper, and he is bewildered at what his party has become. And I got to tell you, I hope he's got some serious security around him. Because it doesn't matter where they are, these nutcases, especially in their own states and in their own home areas, are going to be looking to take them out. That's clearly why Republicans, it used to be they had no courage, no honor, because their own jobs and their own security, financial, was important to them. But now they're actively fearing for their lives. And I mean, I must say, I don't think they're necessarily paranoid. But they created the monster. And by now not having the courage to stand up to the monster, they're continuing to strengthen the monster and to further the potential destruction of our country. It's really something. You imagine what kind of a calculation these guys make, and you wonder how they have the temerity to look at each other in the eye and tell each other the stories they tell when they all know that they're just scared out of their minds. Henry writes, I was never enthusiastic about Joe Biden, but I would have voted for a goat rather than have Trump serve another term. And I was not a Kamala Harris fan either. I felt Biden should have picked Susan Rice for Veep, and all that said, I am so very impressed with the first week of this administration. To coin a phrase, they have hit the ground running in every way. It is very apparent that Biden has been planning his first weeks for at least a year or more. You don't hit the ground running by starting to plan the day after the election. He has surrounded himself with a solid team, and he knows how to delegate. Good job. Yes, of course. The job is Herculean. The job is, in many ways, impossible, right? Oh, dear. Okay. And also yesterday, I just wanted to return to this. I said, our side has people who go off half-cocked as well. And at a time when so many things need to be dealt with, real things. You had the San Francisco School Board spend 7 hours and voting to take the names off of, what is it, almost half their schools? Yeah, half their schools. And some of the names, I mean, it's just mind-blowing. So Abraham Lincoln High School, that's gone. And I thought, Lincoln? What? What? Excuse me? And why would Lincoln be gone? Well, here's what they say, just to keep you up to date. Lincoln was on the list for his treatment of Native Americans. Man. You know, there are people who have no sense of complexity and imperfection and cheese. I mean, you know, okay. I mean, President Obama's favorite president was Abraham Lincoln. God. Frederick Douglass praised Lincoln. Washington, that's gone. Adams, gone. Any slave owner president, their names are out. John Muir, the environmentalist. What the hell? What did he do? I think I remember reading recently that he had some racist tendencies. Well, no, it says here the naturalist John Muir's commitment, he wanted to preserve the country's wildlands for white enjoyment, which gave rise to eco-minded white supremacy. What? What? These are the people that, this is insane. I'm sorry. I mean, oh God, like that's, you know, is there some way to set priorities that don't make you a laughing stock? Seriously. God almighty. Okay, I don't know. Do I have anything else here? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Yeah, I hear somebody who was against it. Our students are suffering and we should be talking about getting them into classrooms, getting them mental health support, getting them the resources they need. I mean, this kind of nonsense, it wasn't even on our agenda. Jeez. You gotta wonder. But here again, that is Democrats and lefties playing to their base, their crowd, and not taking in the bigger picture. People are mind-bogglingly infuriating. I'm sorry. That's the way I see it. Hey, all right, you guys. I don't know that I have anything else. I want to tell you all that I'm going to try to get my head back together, try to figure out how to sleep, and stop tormenting you with these personal misfortunes. I'm serious. I feel like since you know who's gone, I think I said this the other day, I can't get my footing. I will, maybe. And be safe. Seriously, be safe, okay? talk at you again on Monday. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.